Melanie Griffith, Pamela Gidley, David Andrews, a young Lawrence Fishburne as a lawyer slash pimp, Harry Carey Jr. and Ben Johnson, Cherry 2000 from 1987. Cherry 2000 from 1987. One of those lazy afternoon movies that I just sort of was looking to be moderately entertained, and I'm kind of running out of things on my playlist. I'm pretty sure I started the movie about a decade ago and did not actually finish it because it was kind of dull. But here I decided I would give it another chance. It is a dystopian future in which there are people who have nice jobs, fancy apartments, and even nice cars and sex robots. Our protagonist, Sam Treadwell, played by David Andrews, has a particularly good one, considered a quality model, the Cherry 2000. It is a vintage. They say later they just don't make them like that anymore. They're very sensitive and realistic, I guess, in their interaction. After she runs over the water and the dishes in the sink and they try to make love on the kitchen floor, she shorts out, burns out her entire chassis. And though he is fortunate enough to recover the chip that goes in her head behind her ear and keep the personality components, the body cannot be replaced in this time period. He goes out and finds a tracker that is willing to go into the forbidden zone. And there are several different zones given different numbers. There are vague references to a border war and radiation. We get the idea that something terrible has happened and this dystopian future exists. But like the early portions of Mad Max, you don't get a lot of details on what has gone wrong. You just sort of instinctively know when they start describing these things that it is not the future we hope for, but something has gone awry. He hires Melanie Griffith to go into the zone because out there in the desert, left over in the ruins, is the old factory and stacks, they say, of these Cherry 2000 chassis just waiting to be revived or to be programmed, having that chip inserted. It's so worth it to him because he's built this relationship and this sense of love for this robot, despite the fact that her body has been destroyed. He mistakenly thinks that restoring that body will restore his love to him. Predictably, of course, he falls in love with Melanie Griffith along the way. He chooses an actual human woman. At the end, when he's about to make his getaway with an airplane, that they can only take two of them, Melanie Griffith tells him to take his Cherry 2000. That was the job, to go, live happily ever after, and she will fight her way out of the wilderness, where they have been pursued by a strange cult of people seeking happiness and enlightenment in the desert. Watch out for those sorts of people. Of course, he relands the plane and he dumps off the robot and leaves the robot with the cult. The robot fits in better with that cult than the humans do. And he takes Melanie Griffith so they can fly off into the sunset and live happily ever after. This is a classic sort of movie. It gives us expectations from the beginning and then meets those expectations. It doesn't take much of an introduction to the story before we know he's going to meet a human woman, he's going to fall in love, and he's going to choose real human love and relationships over the robot. That is at least what we would expect. Certainly in 1987, definitely what we would expect. In movies of this sort, how they get there is the important part. Do they do it well? Do they give us interesting turns along the way? There's a lot of turns in this one, but I can't say any of them jump out as being spectacular. But the movie gives you expectations and delivers on them. It does give us a sense, I should mention, early on of where the relationship status has gone awry in civilized society, where he is at his job in Anaheim, where he has the nice paycheck, the nice car, the nice apartment, and the nice sex robot. His friends do rib him about not going out to meet real women. When they do show them go out to a club in an attempt to meet real women, you literally have a little audition chip on a card that you show yourself performing sexual acts. You negotiate through a lawyer / pimp what the rules are and or payments necessary, how long the date will last, whether there'll be a morning interlude to follow up or not. The whole thing this is really the most creative part of the story, I think, is that it gave us this very, it's clearly a cynical examination of dating in our own time. Let's just put it that way, with the whole idea of the crass audition and the performance and the paying out of money and negotiated terms. Is it any wonder, living in that society, that he would fall in love with a robot? The robot at least cares about his needs and is responsive to his needs. It's not a competition over who's the sexiest, who's in whose league, who's got the most money. Even the guy that's got the nice job, nice car, nice apartment, and can afford the nice robot would rather have the robot than to be blowing that money on the shallow sexual personal encounters of his time. That part was very interesting. So no doubt this is the reason why he is compelled to go out into the desert. And while there's a cult seeking peace and harmony out there that is nevertheless violent, he's out there trying to find his own peace and harmony through true love. It really is entertaining, and it was worth watching. I'm glad I gave it another chance. It won't win any awards. I'm sure, I didn't look, but I'm sure it did not at the time. Looking quickly, the box office return was $14,000, it says. But it is entertaining, and if you've got an afternoon and you're looking for something not too heavy, not too light, not too ridiculous, it's not really like a romantic comedy, it's not real funny, but it's not high adventure, there's not a lot of sex other than talked about, there's not a lot of violence, gore, brutality. It's just sort of a medium-hearted, is that a word? It's not super lighthearted, but not super serious. And it just takes you on this, without taking itself too seriously, this journey into the lives of these two people that gives you expectations, it meets them, and ultimately it meets them in a satisfying way where at the end you're like, that's what I figured would happen, but I kind of like the way they did it. And again, not going to win any awards for how they did it, but it was good. It was worth watching. Cherry 2000 from 1987. See it, love it. I guess it's remotely science fiction, so live long and prosper.